use this perspective because, with stories, you can understand. So the tale of ASEAN, Laos. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay. I second in terms of countries, this is landlocked. In my field, international economics, used to have the so-called gravity equation. If we are trying to measure the bilateral relation, the bilateral trade and investment among countries, we usually have this equation, gravity equation. As the Newtonian model suggests, gravity force, gravity equation, it is actually well adopted in international economics. So we have the determinant factors. We have size and we have distance. When we focus more on the variable distance, so much so that it's not only distance, but is it landlocked or is it not? So you can see the variables here. When it is landlocked, you cannot trade. You don't have seas. You don't have any, gains and potential gains from trade because you're landlocked. You're amongst Vietnam, China, Thailand, you don't have anything. You have your land, yes, but you're very much on your neighboring countries have independency. I remember one time when I was serving ADBI Institute in Tokyo, I was serving under Chalongpop Susankar. Chalongpop Susankar is the ex-Minister of Finance in Thailand in 2007, if I'm not mistaken, but in 2011, he was actually the chief for a study that was called ASEAN 2030 Studies. He said to us, the associate researcher, he said that when you're seeing ASEAN, when you're seeing individual member countries in ASEAN, it's actually we're focusing more on ASEAN, not on individual basis, not on the countries. In that perspective, ideally speaking, it's not important. It's not important when you're seeing Laos as Laos because it's not important if it is landlocked or not. You're seeing Laos as a part of ASEAN. Yes, it is landlocked, but you're not seeing Laos. Next. So, in the light of that, I'd like to tell you another story. The story of Mahabharata, the original version, not the Japanese version. Because it's quite different. Yeah. In the Mahabharata original version, Draupadi serves 5 Pandava. The Pandava, 5 noble warriors called Pandava. Yudhishthira, Bhima, Nakula, Sadewa, Arjuna. Right? Husbands of Draupadi. 5 noble warriors, big, powerful warriors. Draupadi, of course, she's also goddess, but it's not as powerful as these 5 noble warriors. Draupadi becoming a hub. How is it different from the Japanese version? The Japanese version, Draupadi only serves to Yudhishthira, right? Different. But the original version, this is actually the mirror of ASEAN. When you're seeing Draupadi, you're seeing actually the story of ASEAN. You're connecting people, connecting great powers. You're talking not only ASEAN, but you're talking beyond ASEAN. Because that is currently happening today. Next. ASEAN as the epicenter of growth, facing a geopolitical tensions, the UNCTAD in 2022 mentioned this as the friendshoring. You have 2 geopolitical poles, the East and the West. Although it's somewhat different from what we had before, this is some kind of multipolar geopolitical conflicts. What we have quite polar. We have US, we have Russia, but now we have US and France, we have China and France. 2 political poles or 2 multi We can see it as the multipolars. Friendshoring. With the friendshoring activities, so I might actually want to go back to the pandemic period. At that time, I told the Minister of Trade, when I was serving as the minister, the official spokesperson, I told the minister that, Pak Menteri, we are now facing a potential of a potential you say benefit that is actually emerging from China factor, and the second is the relocation factor in the pandemic period. In the pandemic period, as you remember, was actually, avoid recession. What is a recession? Recession when you have two periods in sequence having a negative growth, but China avoided that period. One period, 1 quarter of negative growth, and then rebound for the second quarter. So, grew much faster than the overall region. But China has a problem because that kind of growth was stipulated by the demand. So the demand overshoot, but the input of production was lagging. So at that time, I told the minister that we'll be entangled with ASEAN is even more because we have the input of production, China factor. The second part is the relocation. Can I have a well-functioning mic, please? Because when you're talking, telling a story, yeah. Okay. Where was I? Okay. The relocation factor. The relocation factor coming from the US, the EU, and also Japan. So they're seeing that focusing too much to China, although it's actually a very efficient global production network, in it's not only in the region, but globally speaking, China is the most efficient production network. Yes, it is efficient, but it is not resilience. You don't have a resiliency there, because too much focus on just one country. Don't put your eggs into one basket. That is actually the paradigm of making portfolio investment, right? So, in that sense, because the US, Japan, EU were seeing China is posing a greater risk for the global production network, so they are also moving to ASEAN. So we have two, China factor and also the relocation factor. Even the Prime Minister Abe at that time, when he announced the fiscal stimulus, the second largest in the world, yeah, and he said that, I paraphrase, with this fiscal stimulus, the world-class fiscal stimulus, I'm going to use this. This is a very, straightforward statement from a Japanese. Because I live in Japan for 6 years, I know Japanese is just like Japanese. It's not straightforward. But Prime Minister Abe said the most straightforward statement. We are going to relocate our factories out from China, seeking for other alternatives. ASEAN. So, from that, so we have later the Russia versus Ukraine. We have also now the Israel versus the rest of the world. We are now seeing that this friendshoring activities are becoming more and more, divided. We have the decoupling throughout the world. But with also ASEAN, we are actually trying to apply to the OECD. The BRICS is also telling us to join. Prabowo visited China and then Japan. No worries. ASEAN neutrality, ASEAN as the epicenter of growth, that will create resiliencies. Because one enemy is just too much. 1,000 friends is just too limited, too little. Next. Okay, so I will tell you a bit of my 3 books trade strategy in East Asia, globalization, productivity, and production network in ASEAN, and forthcoming book in June, the economic resurgence in ASEAN, all published by Palgrave Macmillan. Next. So, what is actually the motivation of these noble warriors entering ASEAN? Because they want to actually, pushing the global production network because they need ASEAN. Next. Although we are actually going together, but next, not at the same pace. Yeah. If you're trying to see the participation order, yeah, whether or not we are actually have enough participation in the global or regional production network, and Indonesia, in the perspective of Indonesia, left behind, right? So we have several countries, different variation of pace, right? So we are the same. We are about one brand, but different pace. Next. Okay, the one that differentiate the pace, is the condition of the to the macro level. I can actually classify this as infrastructure, soft infrastructure and hard infrastructures. Okay. We have the labor, the innovation capacity, the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure. Next. That differentiate us in order to escape from the middle income trap, from the typical innovation stage. Yeah, we have Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar, initial condition. We have also Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam in learning pace, catch-up pace. Malaysia, advanced, no, we don't have, but frontier, Singapore. So different pace. Singapore is leading the pack. We're not at the same pace. Although we are trying to become one brand, but not at the same pace. So we cannot have this one brand because we are not united enough. In terms of intra-regional trade share, I remember Surin Pitsuwan in 2011 when I was in World Bank Tokyo. He actually he made a teleconference at that time and was actually targeting in 2015 we're going to have 30% of intra-regional trade share, but voila, you have what nowadays? It's only 24-25%. We are not that well connected in terms of economy. We are serving others, but we are not serving ourselves. So there's actually a problem of ASEAN. Next. Okay, just because I have limited time. Next. Now, institution and human capital matters. What is actually institution? Taking from the World Bank, we have the voice and accountability, and then we have the political stability, rule of law, government effectiveness, control of corruption. All is actually very, the very, foundation to participate and to grow together, to create ASEAN as the epicenter of growth. Whether it's actually forward participation and backward participation, to make it simple, whether you are going to participate in the global production network, whether you are actually trying to utilize the ASEAN and ASEAN Plus production network, it depends on your institutions. The second, it depends also from human capital. Next. Because this will determine your absorptive capacity. Take, for example, Indonesia. We have investment all the way. But you know what? It's not for us. In Maluku, in Sulawesi, we have investments. We have industries, mining, nickel. But the poverty is still stagnating. Why? Because the labor is not compatible with the investment. Right? We don't have the absorptive capacity. But some say that, so, we are only serving China. We are only serving this. We are only serving the foreign investor. You cannot actually put blame to the investors. The investors are the one that actually using money. If I'm the investors, I want my project to be done. Right? I need skillful labor. if you cannot provide skillful labor, I will provide the labor from my own country. This is home bias hypothesis, which is quite correct, empirically proven. So you cannot blame China, you cannot blame Japan, you cannot blame the US. You need to blame yourself. How cannot you create labor compatibility? Right? So put the blame to us, not to the other. Not next. So with that, we can actually invite more investment. With investment, we can create even more productivity. With productivity, we can create resiliency. So it's actually how it works, the transmission mechanism. It's not a rocket science. So you need to put efforts, but ASEAN is effortless. So in order to grow and grow together, we need to commit ourselves. Next. So in the case of intra-industry trade, low vertical intra-industry trade, horizontal intra-industry trade, and upper vertical intra-industry trade. So this is actually trying to tell you about where you are now, in the middle low of the global participation of the upper. Simply say that most of our interaction here, in the lower part, the middle low, we are not reaching to the next stage of production. You're still in the middle low because absorptive capacity, low skilled labor, low infrastructure, and so on and so forth. So we need to push even more. As a Muslim, I usually heard some khatib in Juma prayer. Yeah, say that utlubul ilm ila bisin. You need to learn from China. What happened with China? Akamatsu flying geese model in 1960s provide the second tier and third tier supports the Japanese production network, well supported by China and also South Korea, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and providing the second tier support groups, middle low. But what you have now, China and also South Korea, are even better than the Japanese, the original version of Japanese production network. They're coming from the middle low, and now they are on the higher ups. So we can learn from them how we can utilize the geopolitical tension, the benefits of geopolitical tensions. Innamal al-yusri yusra. When you have difficulties, you have also potential gain, right? In that, ASEAN, because we are neutral, we are in the middle, we are making friends with the US, we are also making friends with China, so we can actually absorb all of the potential incoming investments, right? So, yeah, absorbing is one thing, but to maintain the investment is the other thing. Okay, so that we need to do. Next. So, as a conclusion, we are now seeing ASEAN as vibrant, but vibrant is, okay, yeah. ASEAN in 1990s were also vibrant. Now it's still vibrant, but we cannot do anything with our, foundation. ASEAN as neutral, ASEAN as epicentrum of growth. It was always stated year after years and after years. So we need to utilize. Yeah, and we need to actually, push this Drupadi. ASEAN is the son of God, like Drupadi. So we can connect even the greater powers. We can benefit from the current geopolitical tensions, the friend sharing activities. Economic resurgence, as my forthcoming book suggests, is valid, but we need to maintain the momentum. As a runner, I have one of my idol, Dave Goggins. Dave Goggins is ex-Navy SEAL from the US. He ran every day, yeah. Even when he broke his leg, still running. You need to have that grit. Stay hard, and we can survive. Thank you very much.